Hey everybody, what's up? It is about, believe it or not, it's about 3:36 in actually 3:32 in the morning here on this Saturday, the day before Easter. You know, folks, I was just talking to myself and thinking something out loud because as a lot of us probably know, for those of us that have Netflix, a lot of us probably know that Sonic the Hedgehog, SatAM, if you will, is now streaming on Netflix, all 26 episodes, both seasons. Now, just to let you people know, don't be fooled into thinking it's one season. No, it's both seasons. They just have to correct it. They have to correct it, believe it or not, they do have to correct it. But, I was just thinking about this, folks. I was watching a little bit of some of the episodes, and one of the episodes I loved the most out of the entire series, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you would agree with me on this, is Blast of the Past. I know I did a video and I did a text X and everything on it recently in the past, about a month ago or so. I talked about it just like some other people, and despite the flaws people may find in it, it's like I said before, I never found many flaws in it, to be honest with you, not that many. The only flaw that I think, and I said this in the video, and I said this in the text, and I stand by this, is the only flaw I find is that they should have started season 2 with this 2-part episode. That's what they should have done. Instead of using Game Guy and then going to Sonic Conversion and No Brainer and all that, they should have started with Blast of the Past. That way you're starting season 2 out with a bang, and people kind of have an idea as to finally why the Freedom Fighters are doing what they're doing. Why Sonic, Sally, Bunny, Antoine, Tails, Rotor, Dulcie, why they're fighting for their freedom. And it would also give people that follow the comic book an idea as to why, along with the editions, comic book exclusive editions of Amy Rose and Shadow and Rouge at times, why they do what they have to do in their fight with Robotnik or Eggman, whatever you call it. So, again, that's the only flaw I find, is they should have started season 2 with it. But as I was watching Blast of the Past, I thought to myself this, despite how we feel about, what Michael Bay did with the Transformer franchise, if you will, there's always been movie adaptations based individually on certain chapters or events in a franchise, whether it's a comic book, a video game, an animated or live action series. There's always been maybe one movie that kind of is adapted off of something that's already been seen in another format or another kind of media. And I was thinking about Blast of the Past, and I said to myself, if some director, some screenplay writer, director, whoever, someday, down the line, and I mean down the line, was to ever decide, what, we're going to do a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. We're going to do it, and we're going to base it off, in some ways, off the Saturday morning cartoon franchise. The Saturday morning cartoon franchise. Saturday morning cartoon portion of the franchise from the 90s. Let's say somebody was to come forward and do that someday, which we all, as longtime fans, I know a lot of us hope and pray happens. But let's say that does occur. My thought on this is, if they want to do a series of movies, kind of like a franchise of movies, because we all know that when Ken Penders and Ben Hurst individually and together were planning a movie, Ken Penders mostly, he had this all planned out, that each different movie was going to feature an addition. It was going to advance the storyline. Like, from what I understand, Ken Penders said by the 3rd or 4th movie out that was planned out in his head, that by the time they would have made the 3rd or 4th movie, if everything had gone according to plan, you would have seen the inclusion of Shadow and Rouge by that time. Now I'm not saying that could have happened or would have happened if his plans would have gone according to plan. But to me, this is the way I look at it. If somebody was to step up to the plate someday, some up-and-coming director, screenwriter, producer, whatever, and was to do a movie adaptation on Sonic the Hedgehog, and most importantly, probably do an adaptation that's based off the early to mid-1990s Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday morning cartoon portion of the franchise, then I would definitely see potential. Because you see, I think, and agree with me or not if you will, I think if they were to adapt, I think if whoever was to step up to the plate someday, that person, excuse me for a moment, that person sorry about that, I had to let my cat back in. I had to let the cat back in the room. But what I'm saying is that person, whoever we hope and pray steps up to the plate someday and does this. To me, I think the best starting point for them, as crazy as it sounds, and agree with me if you will or not, but I think the best jumping on point for them, if they want to do what Ken Penders wanted to do, and that's do like a franchise of movies, like a series of movies. My guess, this is just what I'm thinking, is the best jumping on point for them is to do a full-length adaptation of Blast to the Past. That's true. Now, that is true. That is my opinion. If a director or a producer, if someday a Sonic movie franchise was to be made, now I know some of you watching this may disagree, and that's fine. But I believe if you want to have a great jumping on point and really get people invested and really get people interested and intrigued, to me the best thing to do is to adapt something that they all have agreed and felt is good. And if you're going to go and choose, let's say, the SatAM portion of the franchise, then to me the best jumping on point for an adaptation is to adapt Blast to the Past. That way you can give the newer viewers, the newer fans, an idea as to why the Freedom Fighters, Sonic, Bunny, Sally, Antoine, Rotor, Tails, Amy, so on, why they fight for freedom, why they're fighting Eggman, why they're fighting Robotnik. You can give them a good idea. Basically, it'd be like an origin story with a time travel scenario done, in my opinion, done correctly if you were to get the right director or producer. Now, now to me, that would be a great jumping on point. Now, I don't know if any of you would agree on that. A lot of you may disagree, and, that's okay. You want to disagree, that's fine. But I truly believe that'd be a great jumping on point, or a great jumping point, a great starting point, if you will. Because it would not only be something that older fans like myself would understand, kind of, not understand, but, kind of already know about. But it would allow the newer fans, and a new generation of fans to have an idea as to why it's happening, as to why in the comic books you have characters like Amy Rose teaming up with characters like Sally and fighting against Robotnik. You could give an idea, and you could put all these twists, and you could put and I know, and I know Blast of the Past was only a 2-part episode. It was basically a 44-minute episode, a 44-minute mini-movie, if you will. I get that. But you could expand, but people, I think we all know that could be expanded on. And you could add all different kind of scenarios. You could bring in, instead of just using Sonic, Sally, and Dulcie, and most importantly for the rest of the race, Sonic and Sally, you could also bring in the other freedom fighters. You can bring them in. You can bring in Bunny. You could bring in Antoine. You can bring in Rotor. You can bring in Tails maybe. And really go from there. And believe me, that would work out great because you could expand on detail. You wouldn't just have to have Sonic and Sally kind of meeting up and explaining to Uncle Chuck that, hey, we're the kids you just told to go play outside, but we're from the future. We're from 10 years in the future. And instead of just having Sally wearing the royal signet to convince her father, hey, it is me, and having her, remember or paraphrase, or whatever you want to call it, recite the royal credo, or whatever you want to, the royal credo. Instead of just doing that, you could expand by having Bunny meet up with her parents. You could go in that direction. You could have Dulcie meet with her mom if you want to bring Dulcie into the picture. Ronan meet up with his. The scenarios just play out right there, folks. And I'm checking my time here. But again, the scenarios just play out so well there. And then, if you wanted to continue on with a third movie, you could continue on by taking something like, say, The Void. Well, maybe not The Void. Well, yeah, The Void maybe. And adding in the inclusion, mixing it together, the Void situation, mixing that in with Cry of the Wolf and Drood Hedge. And making that one movie. And then going from there, by mixing all that together into one adaptation, you can go from there, and if you wanted to do a third and final film, Spy Hog and Doomsday, mix that together as one film, boom, there you go. You just got all the different elements there that are perfect for adaptation. And I think a lot of people know that. I know a lot of you watching this video are thinking, well, one, why is he up so late? That just happens to be, that happens when you take a nap during the day going into the evening. But also, but joking aside, one of the things to me, these are great jumping on points. These are great opportunities to adapt. I know Eddie LeBron, if he was watching this video, would agree. I know Richard Kunta, despite how you feel about him, would agree. Ian Flynn, Paul Kaminsky, Ken Penders, they would all, despite how you feel about these individuals, they would all agree. They would all agree with the fact that you have the formula for a movie franchise right there with just what I've mentioned. Now, you might say to yourself, well, Brian, Blast of the Past sounds like a more, sensible adaptation, but how can we adapt The Void and Cry of the Wolf together? Well, I'm not saying you could combine it together, but it's a possibility. If you wanted to do 3 movies, and that's usually the scenario, right? A 3 to 4 movie series, right? If you wanted to do that, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. The Void, yeah, maybe it could be its own individual film, if you wanted to adapt that into a feature-length deal. Cry of the Wolf, you could probably mix in with Drood Hedge and even Spy Hog and make it its own individual film. Excuse me for